Should the government have the right of eminent domain over UFO technology? Well, let's talk about that. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, yeah, the debate has been raging over this in the last few days. Danny Sheehan, of course, is criticizing Travis Taylor and Jay Stratton for being against eminent domain. So let's just go over the pros and cons and what people are saying. So, Danny Sheehan said Taylor and Stratton contacted lawmakers and lobbied against the Schumer-Rounds amendment. I talked about that in a leaked email from Travis Taylor where he was railing against this. And many people think that he's in the wrong. Some people think that he is in the right. So let's go over a few things. Jacques Vallée seems like he has great concerns about eminent domain. This is from Joe Murgia. If you read the Q&A portion of the Nell lecture I posted, you know that Vallée pushed back hard against eminent domain. But he was open about it. This was the first time I heard Fugal and Taylor were against it. Like I said, if they discussed it at the time, I missed it. My paraphrasing of the Nell Q&A, Vallée then mentioned his concerns over the possible confiscation of materials that current researchers such as himself have in their possession in regards to the eminent domain clause of the amendment, and why that would cause trust concerns and pushback from researchers. If that had been done in the past, Blue Book to Condon, all the data would have been destroyed, and that actually happened with the Condon data. Yeah, indeed. And also the Roswell records were destroyed. Vallée resisted the eminent domain language at the Seoul conference in Stanford. Richard Geltreich says, I was there with 200 other people when he vocally brought up his resistance during the Q&A session. U.A.P. News says, read this. This is from Danny Sheehan himself. Mike Turner wanted eminent domain and subpoena power out. Sheehan didn't compromise. They then said they'll oppose the whole Schumer-Rounds amendment. Sheehan also says that two specific provisions within the UAPDA, the Schumer-Rounds amendment, those involving eminent domain and subpoena power, were key targets for those in the House who have recently opposed the amendment. Mike Turner first attacked those two elements, Sheehan told the debrief. He said, we want the eminent domain provision out of there, and we want the subpoena power out of here. And when our people that were working in this responded to the statute by saying, why would you be so worried about the eminent domain provision if you don't have any of the technology, as you keep on insisting? Good point. At which point they retreated to an abstract argument on behalf of libertarian values of not having to state, overreach and be able to seize private property. Our response was, how many other issues have you raised on this, being opposed to the entire concept of eminent domain? None, just this one, Sheehan told the debrief. Then they retreated and said, okay, well, then we're going to take a position to oppose completely allowing anything in this bill to be put in the National Defense Authorization Act. I think that you can be against eminent domain without admitting you have UFO technology. But of course they do. So is Mike Turner, protecting, his clients, his donors who gave him a lot of money, by doing this, or is he doing this, because he, is against government overreach? I don't know. But Brandon Fugal is also against it. Let's see. Brandon Fugal says there will never be full disclosure. Too many territorial legacy programs, liability issues, national security implications, and secrets. The only hope is found in the very few well-funded and organized private sector efforts, so long as they are allowed to operate. Is it real? Yes. He also says, in response to Chris Sharp and others, I am obviously wanting the world to know and continue to be fully transparent. an eminent domain action could potentially compromise our efforts to present all of our findings and discoveries to the public. Very good. And Gonzalo Chavez supports Brandon. He says, Brandon, you have the complete right to keep that discovery to yourself and share it. We should get you in contact to the researchers in Peru who found the non-human evidence. You have the exact depictions of the tridactyls in Utah. And any excuse to cross over eminent domain with the Nazca mummies, I'm on it. Gonzalo says, you may be having an underground structure underneath the mesa with a tunnel system hosting art, bodies, tech, etc. You should talk to people who have made that same discovery. And he's showing, similar, he's showing tridactyl, hieroglyphs, not hieroglyphs, what's the word? Petroglyphs in Utah that look just so much like the tridactyls. And they've got the implant in the chest. They've got the 3 fingers. That really looks like a tridactyl. And of course, he had the spiral right there that might represent a portal. And you have extremely, shockingly similar, depictions of beings in Peru and also Chile. So really, really fascinating. These things were worldwide. I've talked about that before. And if they are under Skinwalker Ranch or something similar to that under Skinwalker Ranch, should Brandon Fugal have the right, to own that? Or should it be seized by the government? That is the question. David Grusch, of course, responded to the killing or the neutering of the Schumer Rounds Amendment, and he was not happy about it. And you can watch this full 10-minute long interview with David about his reactions to that. Interestingly, when he is asked about Mike Turner killing, or neutering the amendment, he does not talk about eminent domain. He says Mike Turner killed it because he was afraid of leaks. Now, I guess the idea is that the disclosure panel, the gatekeeping committee, might be leaky. And Mike Turner was against that. And Dave is saying, no, these are going to be professional people. You don't have to be worried about leaks. Hopefully he would have to be worried about leaks. Hopefully we would get some juicy leaks from those guys. But obviously that's not going to help the conversation. But yeah, so in this 10-minute long segment, David doesn't talk about eminent domain. I'm sure he has addressed that. I think I may have heard him talk about that, but I couldn't find that offhand. If you found his comments on eminent domain, I would love to hear David's thoughts. But obviously he was a big supporter of the Schumer Rounds Amendment and very disappointed by what happened to it. So I would probably put him in the pro-eminent domain group for that reason. But, again, I'm not 100% on that. So let me know if you have seen him discuss that. Let's see. And, others are taking a poll. Adam Goldstack says, sensitive question. If Skinwalker Ranch has an anomalous NHI technology buried beneath it, should that technology be taken by the government or does it belong to the owner, Brandon Fugal? What do you feel about eminent domain and should it impact disclosure? Christian Morales says, hey, Christian, I think it should belong to Fugal personally. I understand national security and protecting technology. I just wanted transparency about NHI and their capabilities and wanted the abuse to end. The cover-ups and the insane secrecy, the threats, all that I want to end. Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. So, there's a few people talking about it, a few of the different sides. Danny Sheehan, obviously, pro-eminent domain. David Grusch, probably eminent domain, although I'm not 100% sure on that. Obviously Brandon Fugal, Travis Taylor, Jay Stratton against eminent domain, Jacques Vallée having concerns about it, Ross Coulthart having concerns about it. So there's definitely a faction that is opposed to eminent domain, or at least has serious concerns about it. So, my take is that the government has not disclosed Jack. I'm Jack and I should know. They have not disclosed Jack. So, if Brandon Fugal, to use an example, found a UFO under Skinwalker Ranch, and the government seized it through eminent domain, would they share it with the world? They haven't shared any of their other UFOs with the world. Why would they share that? I think Brandon Fugal would be 1,000 times more likely, maybe 1,000,000 times more likely to disclose than the government would. So for that reason, maybe eminent domain would be a bad thing, and maybe you could see eminent domain as an extension of the cover-up and the secrecy. Now, in the pro-eminent domain category, you could argue that the gatekeeping committee or the disclosure panel could be very sincere in pro-transparency and disclosure, and that maybe if this was all centralized with them, the whole UFO effort was centralized with them, then the UFO would go to them and they would share it with the world. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Dana Sheehan wants to appoint a former CIA director to that committee. So CIA is part of the problem and part of the cover-up, and they have been for a long time. Former director knows what's going on. He knows part of it. You would have a hard time convincing me that Leon Panetta doesn't know some stuff. He has not revealed any of that. I don't see him as a pro-disclosure advocate. Also, the gatekeeping committee, the disclosure panel, whatever you want to call it, is set up on this 25-year disclosure timeline, according to the JFK release of document schedule. We still haven't gotten all those documents, guys. We still haven't gotten all those documents. And guess why? The CIA is involved. Whether they did it or not, they had some involvement in that. And that is probably the reason why we haven't gotten those documents. So do we want the CIA involved in the gatekeeping committee? Probably not. Probably not. But let's just say the committee was a sincere effort with sincere people motivated for transparency. If the government did have the right of eminent domain and it went to them and they disclosed it to the world, maybe that would be great, right? Obviously, that would be great. And they would be a lot more likely to disclose in this hypothetical scenario than, say, Lockheed Martin or somebody, right? The other people that the government could seize this stuff from. So other things in play right now are the Jon Stewart information. Now, I know a lot of you guys aren't hip to that information, and that's fine. But Nico has corroborated a large parts of Jon Stewart's story, and he himself heard about this firefight between a contractor and the government years ago. He couldn't confirm that it was Lockheed Martin or any of the details of that firefight, but he did confirm that there was a firefight. So I do believe something like that happened. Now, I think that the person that gave John that information put a spin on it, and that may be why that information was allowed to get out there. And the spin was that the government doesn't have anything, and that the evil private contractors have been withholding this technology from them. And that would explain their push for eminent domain, right? They would justify it. They're the goodly, innocent government that's been wronged by these evil contractors withholding this UFO technology from them. And so that would give them justification for this eminent domain. So that information could have been put out there in an effort to, galvanize the public into accepting the government's right of eminent domain. That's just a theory. It could have nothing to do with Jon Stewart's information. Who knows? Who knows? But I do believe that there was a firefight, probably Lockheed Martin and the government, much as John has described. I believe his information is accurate. I question the spin his source put on it. But the government has stuff. They've got stuff, guys. They've got a lot of stuff. In those dumbs that they have, I can't imagine the wealth of technology available to them in those dumbs. It must be like going into, Star Wars or something like that. So the government's got stuff. They haven't disclosed it. They haven't revealed it. They want to seize it from private individuals and private companies that are also probably not likely to disclose. These are probably separate elements of the UFO control group wrangling with each other, as government in the private sector has always done. It is interesting to see that play out in the UFO control group. That is weird. Obviously, we're missing large pieces of the puzzle. And, a lot of this is just simply conjecture. But there are parts of the puzzle that we can see and comment on and try to fill in some of the pieces. I tend to be against eminent domain, but I can definitely see arguments for it if the gatekeeping committee, if the disclosure panel was sincere. Obviously there's some sincere individuals that were involved in the creation of the Schumer-Rounds Amendment, like David Grusch, that want transparency, that want this information out there. So I have to hope that gatekeeping committee could indeed be a sincere effort, and that would be a possibility. But in my heart, I don't really expect that to happen. I have a lot more faith in the field hearings to get this information out there. One thing that the gatekeeping committee or the disclosure panel or the field hearings need is subpoena power, though. That is something that was killed by Mike Turner, and that is something that is needed. We need to be able to bring forth witnesses that would not otherwise come to testify. So whether we get eminent domain or not, Mike Turner was wrong to kill that, to neuter it in that fashion. So hopefully, people have been talking about restoring elements of the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. Danny Sheehan has been talking about that. I think Steve Bissett has also talked about that. And so hopefully some part of that can be put back into play. But let me know what you think. Should eminent domain be put back into play, or should it be cut out because somebody like Brandon Fugal would be much more likely to disclose than the government? But let me know your take in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure appreciate it. Smash the like button and the subscribe button and all that good stuff. Buy some merch to support the channel or become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, there are plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.